Our guest today is Henning Starholm Steen. He is the Apprentice and Inclusion Manager at TietoEVRY. TietoEVRY is a multinational consultancy company headquartered in Oslo in Norway. During this conversation, we have talked about a range of topics, from women in tech to gender discrimination and whatnot. It is a lovely conversation and you should listen to the end of it. Hi, this is Anirban Saha and I welcome you on behalf of the team to one new episode of Season 2 where we interview a selected few professionals in the domain of data science and converse about what it takes to get a job in the real world. If you like our work, hit the follow button on our LinkedIn page. The link is in the podcast description. Also to share your feedback with us and listen to the other episodes. Let's get started. Henning, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Great initiative, and thank you for doing this.
When we discussed about inclusion and diversity within our team, within the podcast team, we often asked each other, what is the role of an inclusion manager? So the first question in this conversation would be, what does inclusion management entail?
Good question. Good start. First, we can start with the definition of what is inclusion. The word is often used together with the word diversity, and often diversity and inclusion are playing a bigger role in today's society. But where diversity is merely invitation to the party, true inclusion is getting asked to dance. And the meaning of the word inclusion differs from where you are on the globe. For example, in the United States, the word inclusion and diversity is often related to skin color and racism. In other parts of the world, it's a gender thing. It can be LGBTQ issue, all the way to just giving people a new chance. I mean, people who have a bad fortune in life, been outside the workforce for some years and want to try to get back in, and try and help those back into the game, so to speak. But what inclusion comes down to is two things. The first is the golden rule, which is treat others as you want to be treated. And the second, if you pardon my French, is don't be a dick. So what I do is I try to influence colleagues, I try to influence the company culture, friends, and everyone to be aware of how you are towards each other, to make everyone feel heard, to make everyone feel seen, create awareness on different topics. All differs from where it is in the world. The topic might differ, but all in all, making a more aware culture in the company. And that's been a bit difficult in 2020 with the pandemic and all, but it's all about creating this sensation of tribe and togetherness within the company. That if you come to us, you will be heard, you will be seen, you'll be given a fair treatment, same as everyone else. On the same time, you are who you are. You are a specific person. You are yourself. So what you need might not be the same what your colleague needs. So while at the same time treating everyone equal, you same have to treat them different, if you see what I mean, in a good way, that is.
So when you say you have to create awareness, it suggests that there is a problem. Would you be open to discussing the kind of problem companies face?
I can. I worked in tech all my life, and of course the biggest issue and the biggest problem, if you so to speak, I would call it challenge then, is of course gender. But on the same time, you. Like, take racism, for example, in Nordic society, we often say that we don't have racism in our society. We don't have, we are above that. But if you look at things and scrutinize them a bit closer, you will see there are unfairness happening in the world today. In Norwegian media, for example, if you apply for a job and you have a foreign sounding name, for some reason you get down prioritized, and that's racism. And that's something I want to combat and battle, that everyone should be given a fair chance and given the same opportunities, regardless of who you are, where you're from, what you believe, and so on. My hard cause, if you can call that's the neurodiversity concept, which we can talk about later. But the first step to creating a better world is acknowledge you have a problem and talking openly about it. Don't put it on the carpet. Don't hide it away. Face it openly. Have open discussion. Dare to ask the difficult questions. Dare to ask: are what we're doing correct? Do we have racism in our company? Do we have gender balance where it should be? Of course, being in tech, we have a gender issue because of the nature of our business. So in order to fix this problem, we have to go back even before recruiting phase. We have to go to the society phase, that how can we as a company get girls interested in tech? How can we get little girls interested in coding and computers and have them become what guys have been for years? So that's like the first step in fixing the problems.
When you mentioned that if someone has a foreign sounding name, they get down prioritized. I know what I'm going to say will sound very wrong, but yeah, think of it this way. They try to build a homogeneous team where they have people who could think together, could talk in the same language maybe, who have the same set of values growing up, etc. It's like familiarity. Why should they go for people from other cultures, other race, other gender, etc.? So the question would be, how important do you think inclusion and diversity is from the company perspective?
Extremely important. What you just said, if we create a homogeneous, that's a difficult word, a similar group, if everyone is thinking the same, everyone is doing the same, everyone is talking the same, how on earth can we move forward? How on earth can we make a change in business? How can we make a change in the world? Because if everyone is thinking alike, no one is really thinking. So what you are mentioning, I would call that a weak group. If everyone's the same education, everyone's thinking the same, they won't get anywhere. They must be at the same spot, treading the water without making progress. The only way to make progress is to get new input, to get new perspectives. And yes, maybe it's a language barrier, but if everyone talks English, you get a long way. But put it this way: if I got a new colleague in my team who is maybe from India, I would Google Indian phrases. I would what is hello in Indian, and just to do this gesture of making that person feel welcome and included, and we are here together in this. And I want everyone to think this way, because the only way is like a shark. If the shark stops swimming, it sinks. And if every team is similar, they won't swim, they will sink. So
from a new employee's perspective, I want to add my story. Generally in these podcasts, I am the one asking only questions and not adding my input. But today I will.
Cool.
I'll take this liberty. So I just got into a company in Berlin. Yesterday was my first day.
Ooh.
Yeah. And one of the interviewers' name is spelled Jose. And at the first thing during the interview, he asked me, okay, Anirban, how is your name pronounced in your language? And I was like, okay. Anirban in English, Germans stress the I part, but in Bangla it would be Anirban. The A is basically AW. The first A is always AW. And yeah, yesterday when we met again, he pronounced my name in the actual way it should be. And it made me feel very happy and included.
Exactly.
And yeah, there was no looking back. And even his name is spelled in English as Jose, but he is Argentinian and his name is pronounced as crochet. I just hope I pronounced it correctly, but fine. Yeah, so it really helped break the ice. And yeah, another of my team member there is from Texas, and she also made sure that I'm comfortable, and I think I'm the only Indian in the team. So
that's a great story, and that illustrates the whole thing I'm talking about. I mean, how many calories did it cost him to do that little gesture, which made you feel so happy?
Yeah.
And if you can get this mindset of doing these things all day long for everyone, I mean, the world we would end world wars within days. I mean, if everyone can strive to see each other and make each other feel comfortable. And of course, there will be friction, there will be discussions, there will be disagreements, there will be not fights, but arguments. But if everyone can have the sensation and the origin of taking care of each other, you can have professional disagreements anytime. I mean, you can argue and really talk loud and go have a beer afterwards, because like we are friends here, but I disagree with you, and that's how the world will make progress, in my opinion.
Yeah. Your profile further goes on to say that you are a neurodiversity advocate. For the listeners of this podcast, could you explain what that is?
Yes. Neurodiversity is the concept that what was called neurological conditions, for example, ADHD, autism, dyslexia, dyscalculia, Tourette's, instead of being a disorder which needs treatment and should like be cured, it's merely a natural and a valuable form of human diversity. It's diversity of brains and minds, and we are like, what are we, 6-7 billion people on the world, and that means there's 6-7 billion different brains. So it's like the infinite variations of neurocognitive functioning within our species. So instead of being a disorder, it's more like a biological concept, so to speak. So in my opinion, and many with me, is like the idea of a normal or healthy type of brain is merely culturally constructed fiction, which is no more valid than the idea that there is not one normal or right ethnicity or gender or right culture. It's merely who you are, and even if that might bring in some difficulties or challenges, by meeting the right employee, the right employer, you can work around these differences, challenges, and highlighting your strengths, because it's proven that, for example, ADHD have a lot more energy and enthusiasm, and they have strengths that other people do not have. So if we can play this to our favor, it can become a huge contribution factor in society and in the business itself.
ADHD is the attention deficit, right?
Yes, also called hyperactivity. Then we have autism, which is often, if you've seen Rain Man, the old movie, that they have a tendency to hyper focus, and they have difficult doing social interactions. But by playing on strengths instead of weaknesses, you can create what I mean is superheroes in the workforce.
When you were talking slightly earlier, you also mentioned it is not only about genders, but genders, different sexualities, people from different regions of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in your company or in your experiences, can you give us a couple of anecdotes how this diversity saved the day?
Mm-hmm.
People were thinking in a certain way and they were wrong, and people who are from different backgrounds came in and was like, no, 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 you're doing this wrong, do this, and that would be correct.
Yeah. I think that the most important kind of diversity, it's diversity in thinking and capabilities, often called cognitive diversity. And in some, that means that you as a person, you are like the result of your life, if you see what I mean. You've been through ups, you've been through downs, you've been through traumas, you've been through happy things. I mean, and in summary, all these experiences have made you into who you are and made you into having this kind of thinking and this kind of capability. And I talked to a leader and he said that in my team, he said, we have people who are disorganized, but they can handle large amounts of complex things at the same time and have a vision. I mean, their desk is a mess. They have papers everywhere, and it's like it's a horrible horrible sight. But they can handle large amounts of complex things within their heads, even though it doesn't reflect on the outside. And on the same time, you have people who are organized and can keep track of things. You have people who have experience in security testing, you have in test automation, you have programmers, architects, all different kinds of roles. Now, he said that if I only had organized people, we would know where we are, we would have no idea where to go, and we would never get there. But if we only had vision, but no organization, if we were doing a lot of going, but we'd probably never get there either. So another example he mentioned was that he was in a team with a hardware guru and a PhD level mathematician, I think it was, plus some people who were very experienced in hardware packaging and production. Now, what he said, they could basically develop the first prototype of a device in 1 to 2 days, from zero to a working prototype, including circuit board design and production, just because of this diverse team. And you mentioned if everyone was a PhD mathematician, if everyone was architect, they wouldn't get anywhere. But by having this cognitive diversity, you get this combining, called Avengers, if you know the superhero team. Everyone have their own capability and might be on their own have a weakness, but together they have this huge force in making a difference in the world.
You also mentioned, I'm sorry, I'll keep going back to whatever you said.
No problem.
You also mentioned that you have to create awareness, and people generally tend to create homogeneous teams. So how easy or difficult is it to accept multicultural teams and diversity?
Good question. What I often do when I try to create awareness is to highlight the success stories. For example, when I talk to people about neurodiversity, most haven't even heard of it. Most have call it a stigma or a misconception that if you have ADHD, you are noisy, you are restless, you can't focus, you are difficult to manage, but doesn't say anything that you can be an excellent salesman, for example. You could be an excellent programmer who have the ability to hyper focus and do 4 hours of work into 2 hours. And when you talk about autism, people have seen Rain Man. I think that means people who are weird and get meltdowns in public, and instead of the reality, which is you have a person who can see systems in things, they can create and maintain complex patterns. They can do a task to perfection countless times, because they don't get tired of it. And when creating this awareness, when informing people this is how it really is, the path to actually making a difference is quite short. But you need to have this foot in the door, so to speak. Hey, check out this story, check out this anecdote, what this guy did. Oh, cool, can I give it a try? And once we get the ball rolling, things get a lot different, easier down the road. If you see what I mean.
Okay, but in general, how tough or easy it is for traditional teams? Do you find it easy to convince people to have diverse teams?
Yes, and that might be a Nordic thing. When I make my case, most people understand it. Most people see, yeah, I see that my team needs a new input. And this is something we work on a company level as well, that the diversity is important. But again, diversity is nothing without inclusion. I mentioned the quote earlier about diversity being the invitation to the party and inclusion is getting asked to dance. That means that diversity is just counting of heads. Say we have a boardroom with 12 board members. And you say, yeah, we have one female, we have one Asian, we have one Indian, we have one gay dude, we have 4 women, and it's like you just count them all. It says nothing about the interaction between them. It says nothing about the inclusionness of the board members, that they actually talk to each other. You can be honest in the discussions. You can be upfront with your viewpoint, get respected for it. You don't have to agree, but you get respected for it, and you can go back and forth to create the best solution. Because if you don't have the inclusion, if you only have diversity, it will be the same 2 guys doing the what do you call it? Agreements anyways, to doing the decisions anyways. That's why it's so important to have the inclusion part within the whole thing.
So when you mention company level, do you have regulations that dictates a team has to be diverse? Or maybe 50% quota? I'm not sure if quota is a very valid word which you...
I see what you mean. Yeah. We have, TietoEVRY have ambition to reach 50-50 gender balance within 2028, I think it was. And within 2025, we want to be 40-60, I think. But to do a quota,
I might have used the wrong word.
Yeah, but there's the pros and cons to it, because it's important that a person get hired because of his or her capabilities, not because, oh, I have to have a woman in the team, I have to have a Indian in the team, because that's back to the diversity inclusion part. Just counting of heads is no point. But it's important to give everyone a fair chance, regardless of whether you are Indian or whether you are female or whether you are gay, whether you are whatnot. To everyone having the same origin. And of course, there's a famous contradiction from the criticism is that, yeah, what if you have 2 similar candidates, both are exactly the same qualifications, but one is a guy, one is a woman? Should the woman get the final point? You see what I mean? my opinion, this might be a little bit of grenade, but I would say yes, because of the business we are in. We are in tech, we need women input. But if you are, for example, in healthcare, where it's opposite, where women are the larger portion, then the final point should go to the male. Because in that sector, we need male input. So you have to like look at it from the circumstances before like taking the final say. So the question to you, no, answer to your question is maybe.
When you mentioned that your company has a goal of 50% men, 50% women by 2028, it suggests that your company is already taking very proactive measures towards it. So how well is your company placed in this regard in the ecosystem? If you compare your company with other IT companies, how would you do that?
I'll tell you a funny story here. We did a bit of a test just to see if it has something to say. And that what we did was we changed the wordings in our job listings, job postings. We changed wordings with the help of a language expert. We switched out the usual words, which apparently often appeal to men, with more, not feminine words, but more overall generous, general wordings. And what happened is that the amount of female applications was increased by 30%. That's quite a lot. And that taught us that maybe we should just look at the whole recruitment concept. And what we also do in our graduate process is that we do blind recruiting, which means we have a gamification stage in our recruitment. So even before you reach a human being, so to speak, you are kind of on your own. You do this gamification where you are being measured in like 8,000 data points. Then you get a score on how quick do you give up, how fast do you click, how do you see patterns and all that stuff. Then you come like to a human person. So gender and who you are and what you are doesn't matter before that. And that also helped us in our graduate process to reach 50-50 male and women in Sweden in the graduation program.
One thing came to my mind, but yeah. In your office of inclusion management, do you also have women?
I don't have office. I'm only me. That might be
a person.
I'm a single man army. No, we have call it. You could say that the responsibility of inclusion is everyone, all the way from CEO down to the human resources officer, down to the single employee. Inclusion is all our responsibility. And I work together with the rest of the HR, and we have people in Sweden and in Finland who work in this subject as well. And we do training on managers, on inclusive leadership, and we do a lot of things in making this change, which I really am happy to see that it's such high on the agenda, the inclusion and diversity part. Of course, being in tech, we have the women question is high on the agenda, but the rest is coming as well.
In our previous discussion, in our personal discussion before the podcast recording, you mentioned that if you come to our company, bring a bit of India with you.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I really liked it. You also mentioned, and you mentioned a couple of times during this interview recording, that diversity is being invited to a party and inclusion is being asked to dance. Now, for our audience, whoever will be listening to the podcasts, could you please explain the entire thing the way you explained to me? You already did it briefly during this during this interaction right now. But when you say bring a bit of India with you, what exactly do you mean in
What I
details?
mean with that is that back to the whole cognitive thing. When I meet a new person, I like to get to know this person, because if this is a person I might have to work with towards a customer or in a project, and who you are, where you're from, that makes you who you are. And that's why I think when you are from India, a beautiful country with beautiful people and beautiful food and so much good things about India, why on earth should you hide that when you come to a new country or a new company? Or you should bring home with you. For example, we did, I think that was in Sweden, we had I think it was a lunch concept that people brought dishes from their home country to the lunchroom, and that's great, because what brings people together better than good food, you know? And India have a beautiful mindset on your religion and everything. So when you go somewhere, go where you are celebrated, not just merely tolerated, because you should be celebrated for who you are, where you're from, and what you stand for in the place you choose to live or work. So that's what I meant by that, is that bring a part of home with you, share with your colleagues, share with your friends, tell them stories of your childhood in India or wherever in the world you're from, because that's how we can bond and bind the globe together. We're talking a lot these days, the climate crisis. This is a crisis. We done with COVID now, but the climate is changing, and if the world don't start working together soon, it's not going to work. So we have to create. If you see, I'm a bit of a sci-fi fan. I like science fiction, you know. And what I like is see, like, in the future, you have these planet federations. So instead of talking about Europe and America and India and Australia, talk about like the nation of Earth, the Earth United Earth Federation. Now we are one people, we are one globe, one planet. So if we're going to reach the stars and conquer other planets, we have to become one instead of this fractioned country and world part of the world's mentality, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So
Even Rabindranath Tagore spoke of the same things since the Star Wars part where you're fighting of aliens. He did not speak about that. He spoke about one world united by humanity. But coming back to the topic of India, do you think, and I speak it from an extremely personal point of view, when I have awesome friends who are German, but they all believe I know a lot of Hindi and I know a lot of Bollywood. I know neither. So here comes the question of gross stereotyping. What do you think does that? Does it help the cause, or do you think it hinders the smooth interactions between the two individuals?
I think that's a matter of how you approached it. The question, you can choose to either be offended by it, or you can choose to smile and laugh at it. I'm Norwegian, and when you talk about Norwegians, we're talking about polar bears in the streets. You're talking about Vikings. You're talking about eating sheep heads. I don't do either. But it's a good icebreaker in my opinion. But if you go around and choose to get offended by it, you don't be. It's
On record, yeah. I am not offended.
No, I know. But if you smile at it and think of it as a funny thing, it will bring the world together. Because you talk about stereotype American, stereotype Indian, stereotype Swedish, stereotype Russians, you know. And if you take it with a tongue-in-cheek mentality to it, it's just good old fun. And you can like banter and tease each other and hey Anirban, siden lenge siden har hatt Bollywood, eh? and you can laugh at it and make for a good atmosphere.
I also met an extremely overtly friendly street food vendor, who judged me by my skin color and gave extra spicy sauce. And I'm like, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I just couldn't tell that I do not like overtly spicy food. But
Yeah.
okay, coming back to the questions.
Funny, yeah.
So people across the globe celebrated the Pride Month. Do you think that people in management, not only in your company, but overall in Europe, have started accepting changes, except for a couple of countries which are there, and they are getting more inclusive of other different gender identities?
Yes, absolutely. As you mentioned, this is a geographical thing. You have the black spots, you know, on the map where things aren't good, and I hope one day that we will come together and everyone should be able to love and be who they are. I'm extremely proud of my company, which takes a really official and public stand on the whole Pride thing. Some try to say it's a political thing. I say a giant no to Pride being political. Pride is about being able to be who you are and love who you want to love. And try to state that this is political and a power thing, that's just nonsense. So I'm proud of my company that they are so publicly supporting both the Pride movement, and they are sponsoring Pride marches in several cities. But at least in Norway and Scandinavia, it's growing. And again, the word tolerance, I don't like the word tolerance because it says that I accept it, but I don't like it. But getting celebrated is a better word, I think. So yes, it's definitely a shift in the companies that you're allowed to be who you are and love who you want to love.
Talking about multicultural teams, not only in Europe but also in the subcontinent. Like I mentioned, even India is like hugely diverse. There are different subcultures, and then people from different subcultures come together. When they come together, often they see physical differences and differences in language, cultures, customs, and there is inhibition. A lot of international students, they fear voicing their independent opinions in front of people who are very different from them. What tips would you give to them?
Don't be afraid. If you find yourself in a group or in a place where you get the sense of, if I speak my mind, I will get consequences or repercussions of it. Get out. Don't bother. Stay there. In order, I mean, yeah, we are different people. We are coming from different places, but the best way to not mitigate, but the best way to like remove the inhibitions is to ask questions, be curious. So if you as a student, for example, come into a room full of white males pushing 50, be curious about your surroundings, and try to share some of your own experiences and how you are, so they can learn from you and you can learn from them. But if you think, don't be afraid, because if you are afraid, there shouldn't be a reason to it. If there is a reason for you to be afraid, go away. Just get out, find a new job, find a new place to live, because that's not how it's supposed to be.
Here comes my very short follow-up question. That for an international student, say someone coming from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or Middle East, and after finishing their studies, it is already very tough getting into the workforce, right? And you just said, do not be afraid. Leave the job if you are not fitting in. There are apprehensions when there is an opportunity for someone to speak up. They not only think about consequences, which can be adverse in nature, but there are also a question: is this the right thing to say? And not just saying. I have come across at least 4 people while preparing for this episode. They had questions like, is it the right way to sit in front of them? Is it the right way to eat? Is it the right way to present themselves? For that matter, when I was asked to come to a party, I questioned questioning is a harsh term. I'll say, in conversation, I asked my supervisor, hey, what are other people wearing? Like, it will be awkward if other people are wearing business casuals and I wear a t-shirt. Right? But unlike me, many people don't ask that. Why? Because they feel that their question might seem stupid. And overall, they might not be accepted by people of other cultures, people of other dominant cultures in that workspace. So what would be your tips for them? Or rather, in a better way, how would you groom them?
Good questions. Never be afraid to ask the questions. I mean, you talked about it. Go to your leader, go to your manager, go to your colleague. I'm a bit unsure, because everyone is afraid of not fitting in. Everyone is afraid to not be accepted. That's a caveman instinct. I think the worst thing you do is to choose not to go to the party, to choose not to participate at the lunch table, to choose not to go down the hallway with your colleagues. Do it anyways, if you see what I mean. And if you feel insecure or unsure, find a colleague which you have maybe said hi to, and ask him or her, can you give me some tips? What should I do? And at some point, be proud of who you are. Bring a part of India with you. Okay, in India we dress like this. In India, I wear a suit, even if it's a pool party. No, just example, because you're overdressed, But it's like important that don't give up on who you are. Don't leave behind who you are and what your culture is, because you have something valuable with you when you come from India. And in order to make this global society, global community happen, we need to mix it all together and get new inputs and get new. All right, it's a couple of weird looks when you enter the party with the flip-flops and the bathing shorts, if everyone else has suits on. But you came, and you chose to engage yourself and participate and try and be a part of the culture you wanted to attend. So in grooming, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and there is no stupid questions ever. That's important. If you are new to company, you're allowed to ask many silly things, even if they are not silly. So that's my tip. Find a person you can ask about the stupid things, and be yourself. Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Okay, but this answer is at a very, very general level. What I'll do is I'll ask you a follow-up question, hoping that we get something more specific. Today's graduates, because we all are students, so today's graduates are tomorrow's leaders. You mentioned how you would groom them. So how would you groom them into leaders who encourage diversity at their workplace? And be sure I'll ask you a follow-up, a flip question after this.
Yep. The most important thing for a leader, no matter if you are a current leader or you're a leader in the making, be curious. Be curious, be humble, take a back seat. Don't be afraid to give up control. You can tell a person what to do, but don't tell him or her how to do it. Give them a try to do it themselves in their way, and the end result might surprise you. Ask questions. We talked about this. Bring a part of India with you. If you are a Indian leader and you come, you get Norwegian bald guy in the India office. Ask the Norwegian bald guy, how is Norway? What is a Norwegian lunchtime like? What do you serve in the Norwegian cantina? Why don't you have any hair? I mean, you just ask questions, even if it might be difficult ones.
Wouldn't the question about the hair be offensive?
Why is it offensive? It's a dinner question. I don't have any hair. And a good point, by the way. Don't be afraid to ask difficult questions. You can't say, because it's important to bring up things that we talked about racism earlier, and how that is like brought under the carpet. We don't talk about it, we don't address it, but we have to address it. We have to talk about it in order for it to make it better. And if you ask difficult questions with the intention of trying to fix it, if you see what I mean, it should be okay. Because you say, okay, I see you are bald. Is there anything I can do to make you feel more comfortable? Should we remove all pictures of people with hair, or like what do you should we censor any shampoo commercials? No, I'm just kidding with you. Yeah, but it's about making people feel safe in their environment. And new leaders, ask questions. Be curious. Let people that are going to work for you do things their own way, and they might surprise you. Make it personal. If you're a leader, make them the sensation of getting to know you personally. Talk about your dogs, talk about your daughters and sons, talk about your goldfish, talk about how you what you had for dinner last night. Make your employees know you on a personal level. Our former CEO, before the merge, he talked about his kitchen all the time, because he had this kitchen story which he told many times, on how he bought a new kitchen, and instead of getting go to the shop, I want that kitchen, the kitchen vendor came home to him instead and helped him like pick out the perfect kitchen. That's how we want us to be, instead of getting off the shelf products, we should be consultants to our customers to tailor solutions. But by telling this story, we all got the sensation of knowing him personally, and we imagine him sitting at home at his kitchen, having a red wine on a Saturday night, and that helped us humanize him, and we can say hi to him in the hallways if we never talked to him before. So that's another tip for tomorrow leaders to present yourself on a personal level.
Okay, I thought of asking you a flip question, but since I have already talked about a couple of examples from my life, I would like to talk about another one. It's really important. I grew up in Calcutta, which is a little different from other major cities in India. I had a convent school education, I lived in my own bubble, and in my bubble, there was no problem, honestly. There is some, or that I would like to believe there is a good amount of awareness about gender issues. I was introduced to this kind of struggles, when we were discussing this in one of the sessions in Portland, USA. The discussion was on gender issues and acceptance of people who identify themselves as non binary. In that discussion, I mentioned, like an idiot, that in Calcutta, one of the most celebrated film directors was Ritipurna Ghosh, very famous. India's first transgender to become a college principal is Dr. Manavi Bandhopadhyay, who was born a man and then wanted to become a woman. After that session, I retrospected a bit. I realized that I could mention about just two. I assumed everybody else is treated equally well. I undermined the problem then, and I now think I have a lot to learn. I believe this episode is very important because I would assume that we all know the problems. We know that there is a gender gap and we need to fix it. We know that people of different gender identities feel discriminated against, but we are not able to approach it properly. We all know that internationals like us should be included into German societies, but we do not know how to make ourselves ready for it. This episode is really, really important, and I thank you so much for spending so much time with us. And I believe this episode should give some insight as to how we should prepare ourselves when we enter the workforce into the multicultural teams and prepare ourselves. I think this is the best time I should stop speaking and open the forum to questions. This is the maximum I have spoken in an episode.
Yeah, but you have excellent points, and by doing what you are doing, you are helping making the world a better place. And it's this kind of discussions and this kind of highlights and spotlights which are needed. And here we are talking about this, and we all know that this is important. Now we need to get our leaders and global leaders, so to speak, to talk about the same things publicly. So thank you for inviting me and allowing me to empty my head and ramble on about space travel and all different kinds of things. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Again, a very, very specific personal point of view here. There were times where I came across people who do not conform to a binary. And I kept thinking, should I say this? Is it offensive? Is it not offensive? How do we prepare for these situations, conversations? Because there's very less awareness about these things.
Yes, don't be afraid to seem offensive. As I said previously, if you ask difficult questions with the intention of learning, with the intention of broadening your mind, if your intention is good, it shouldn't be a problem. If you're talking to a non-binary person and you have a question, you should be allowed to say, I really want to learn this. I'm trying to broaden my mind. I'm trying to change the world, and you can ask the question which you are thinking of. Most non-binary persons, most people who who are in this group, they know to some extent how people can feel. And I think it's better for them that they get the question out of the world, you get the questions asked, then move on, instead of thinking that I wonder what he's thinking now, if you see what I mean. And don't be afraid to ask questions, don't be afraid to learn, and be curious. That's my best tips.
Okay. Here we take two questions, both from Shubham. Shubham, would you like to ask them?
Yeah, I can ask them. So Henning, so the first and the foremost question is, we say, or you discuss, like, companies are really working forward towards this idea or the concept of diversity and inclusion. And it's just not the political agenda, but they are working hard on this in the implementation aspect as well. So what I would like to know is that, is it just from the PR point of view, so that people feel that they're included, or there are actual some ground implementations? So does there exist the gap, or what they're saying is being done actually?
What we've seen in my company, I mean, we are the Scandinavia's and Nordic largest IT company in Nordics, and top 5 in Europe. We deliver solutions and technology to a huge amount of people. We deliver solutions to societies and to companies, which, I mean, they're huge. And in order to be able to create solutions that everyone can use, that everyone can value, everyone can get some out of, we need to be diverse. We need to know the people, and society is diverse. This society consists of everyone. So we also need to be everyone. We need to know, for example, if we are to create a banking solution for, say, blind people or people with bad vision, you can't have a programmer or have a person with perfect eyesight do coding for a website for sight impaired people. We need people who are in that situation, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
To actually advise us, what can we do? And I talked about it several times, but the cognitive diversity thing, that who you are, what you experience, and what you're made of makes it who you are, and it gives you a valuable input in our solutions and into our company. So we actively seek different people. We actively seek out cognitive differences in all our teams and employees.
Actually, what I wanted to know was, for example, let's say company X has changed the company logo to rainbow color during the Pride Month, and they promote on their social media platforms that we encourage these kind of inclusions. But what there was a, let's say, allegations on that particular company that there was certain biases when it comes to these sections or these inclusion aspects. So what I wanted to know, so do really companies act on it apart from the organization which you are a part of? So do you see any gap between the saying and the actual implementations? That's what I wanted to know.
There are some, I mean, you see, the question is, you have June Pride Month, and every company in the world plasters their websites and social platform with the rainbow flag. So what you want to know is, does that keep on going after June month? I believe so. Again, there are geographical variations in the world, unfortunately, but I think most of the world is coming along that we need all hands on deck. We need everyone to contribute and participate, and not get this minor things that who do you love to get in the way of actually utilizing your capacities. So yes, I think so, that we are getting there.
Okay. And another quick question, because we are already over 5 minutes of the time. So the next question is, what kind of challenges are you facing right now when you try to address this situation or this aspect of diversity and inclusion when you talk to the person who will be recruited as a part of the team, or when you discuss this topic to the world leaders or the team leaders?
The main challenge is conformity. They have always done it this way. This is how we always done it. This is how we always have. They're maybe not open to anything new. So when I come and hey, let's try and get this guy with autism into the team and see what he can do. They're like, huh? Why? Why? This is scary. And that's often corresponding with the lack of knowledge. They are unsure. They don't feel competent enough into knowing what this person is capable of. And that's where I come in. Then it's my job to inform them and course them and help them into understanding the value these people have. So we are creatures of habit, and that's something we should respect. But it doesn't harm anyone to get a bit stirred up and let's give something new a try, and that way reaching a even better output than we have done for the last 20 years. Yes, it's conformity and lack of knowledge, which is the main inhibitors of doing this thing of mine.
Okay, thank you.
May I chip in a very quick question?
Yep.
Since the mention of world leaders happened, suppose you meet Erna Solberg.
Mm-hmm.
What could be the one thing that she could do to make your campaigns easier or life easier?
Actually, quite funny you asked that, but Erna Solberg, which is the Norwegian Prime Minister, agrees with me on this. And her government for the last 8 years have done something called, in Norwegian is called inkluderingsdugnaden, which means inclusion, work-life inclusion on the agenda. That means that if you have a job opening, you should give everyone a fair chance, even if they have holes in their CVs, or even if they don't look like the perfect candidate, if you see what I mean. But you still give them a try. You still give them a chance to show what they're made of and show them your capabilities. And that goes for refugees, that goes for ex-convicts, ex-drug addicts. Give them a chance. Give them a single chance to grasp on and help them back into the society again. So for the Norwegian politicians, this question is absolutely up there on the agenda. So we are lucky here.
Yeah. Okay. As you know, it is always a pleasure talking with you and to just converse with you and listen to you speaking. But this episode has to stop.
We could be in this for hours,
Yeah. I thank you so much. We thank you so much for making time for this really engaging conversation.
It's been fun.
And I hope whoever listens to this benefits from this.
Me too. And feel free, everyone who listen to this, add me on LinkedIn. Let's connect. Let's make the world a better place, and let's go for the stars.
Okay. Thank you so much one more time.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you've made it till the end of this amazing conversation. Please check this space out next Wednesday as well. Next week, we release the last episode of season 2, and we are confident that you would find that useful as well. We release our podcasts on LinkedIn, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Stitcher, JioSaavn, and a few more platforms. If you find this conversation useful, please share this with your friends and stay connected with us. Thank you for listening.